Hi, hello, namaste. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Afshan, and I'll be your host for today's event, the Digital Dialogues Season 2 Industry 4.0. In episode 2 of the Digital Dialogues, we will be focusing on agile industry. Digital Dialogues is brought to you by Dell Technologies in partnership with NASCOM and is powered by Strategic. Can you please sit back and make yourself feel absolutely comfortable? We should be commencing episode 2 in next few minutes. We have an immersive set of industry and technology discussions curated only for you for the next hour or so. As you've seen in episode 1, we will again be joined by India's cricketing legend, Kapil Dev. I'm sure you all are very excited about this. And we will take forward our discussions from where we left off in the last episode. You can expect bouncers and conversations that will swing both ways. The first segment is titled The Digital Dialogues, which will be moderated by Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer, Strategic.
Hello and good morning. I am Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer at Strategic, and I have the privilege of hosting two very eminent industry and business leaders in the Digital Dialogues Season 2, Episode 2. This episode is titled Agile Industry, and we'll talk about the onslaught of disruption on a global economy where industry has been severely challenged in almost all facets of business continuity and resilience, often perhaps found wanting for capacities, skills, and preparedness. Joining me on this very exciting panel discussion are two very eminent leaders, as I mentioned. Please put your hands together in welcoming Sarojit Jha, Chief of Business Transformation and Digital Solutions at Tata Steel. Sarojit, welcome. Privileged you could join us.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And we have Amit Saluja, Senior Director and Center Head, NASCOM Center of Excellence. Amit, pleasure to have you with us once again. Sarojit, I am going to directly jump to you. We've seen what the first half of the year really has taught global as well as Indian industry to the largest degree. And therefore, as Indian industry, manufacturing being the dominant one here, kind of, if I may be allowed to use the word, limps back to a sense of normalcy. How do industry leaders such as you, who are at the core of manufacturing, kind of make the distinction between business transformation and the cliche of digital transformation?
That's a very good question, and I think it's the heart of what have we been discussing for a while. So the way I would look at this, or the way we have been looked at this, is that ultimately COVID-19 is an event, and what it's taught all of us is the need for resilience. What it's taught all of us is the live local, love local kind of theme. What it's taught all of us is that the supply chains, there is a trade-off between efficiency and sustainability of the supply chain. And I think there's a lot of work that everybody individually and collectively is doing in that sense. But I think where we were coming into the pandemic was that we were looking at connectedness as our main business theme. So business has transformed over hundreds of years. Tata Steel is really a 110-year-old startup. We have had the luxury of facing the last pandemic 100 years ago. And there's a lot of literature that we had, and we realized that, boss, the way we are dealing with the pandemic is nothing great and nothing new. Our forefathers did a much better job with much less technology and under much less, much more difficult situation. So I think that's very humbling, and we know that they have bequeathed to us this legacy, and we just need to take it forward. But coming back to this theme of business transformation. So business transformation has been done by Tata Steel over the last 110 years. And if we do a good job of it, and if we embrace agility, which you talked about as a virtue or a value, I think we should survive another X number of years. I can't predict how much, but it would be worth the effort and while. So we have this theme called connectedness. We were looking at 6 connectedness. We were looking at connected people, connected assets, connected operations, connected customer, connected transactions, and connected decision making. And these 6 nodes of connectedness was almost like a digital twin of Tata Steel, so to speak. And this journey we are gluing in as via 6 or 7 platforms that we are building. When the pandemic hit, we made a quick shift we came up with a pick strategy, a pickup strategy, and pick as an acronym unfolds as platformatization. So we accelerated this platformatization because we realized that the value was in the connectedness. We brought in I stands for in-house. So we could not afford the ecosystem partners as much as we wanted to. So we had to quickly bring in a lot of the work in-house. In order to bring it in-house, we looked at competencies. So there was a 5+2 competency set. It starts with design thinking. So we're training a lot of people in design thinking. We're training a lot of people in DevOps. We're training a lot of people in Agile, having Scrum coaches and Scrum masters internally. We're teaching people in DevOps, low code, no code, and also we're teaching people a lot of RPA and bots. So these were the these are like 5 core tools to be in IT. And then we are teaching a lot of people Python and also visualization skills. So that the yield, energy, throughput, quality, and productivity, which are the primary metrics that drive a steel company, can be supported by this. And K stands for KPI driven. We are looking at the value from the transformation. So we have a $2 billion transformation program that has been that was widely publicized about 2 years ago we are in the second year of it. Now we have a line of sight to $1 billion, but we need to work harder to get to the next billion. So I'll stop with my those opening comments.
I'm going to take this to Amit. Amit, you're at this vantage position where you have a fairly detailed, vast horizon or a spectrum, really, of industry view. Sarojit spoke beautifully about the whole concept of how design thinking is elemental to business and business transformation predominantly. I'm not going to say digital transformation. But how do you see the convergence of business transformation and technology kind of coming together from where you sit?
Yeah, sure. So I think that right now we are in the VUCA world. The amount of uncertainty we have is of the highest order. The speed of the technological change is massive. Business transformation as the business environment, as Sarojit talked about, is kind of is a lot. We are talking about the changing customer requirements. So there is a lot of things going on, and which this can be solved unless we have the agility in the system, and that agility will come in with the help of the technology. Right? So that's where I think the connection needs to happen. We are talking about, we need to have an incremental approach towards this whole deployment process. The other thing I think is Sarojit talks about the connected things. So one is the connectivity is important. Other important element are the integration, right? So that's the other integration is there, and then make it as an intelligent organization. So to kind of make that happen, we need to ensure that at a first level, the data is captured at all levels, which is, I think it is not happening. And then once we have those intelligent decision makings, then the next set of actions can be defined.
Very interesting. Sarojit, if I could come to you really, is you again are somebody who's got his hands right up to the elbows deep within technology. How do you kind of, and this question really comes to you in two parts. The first being, how do you embed speed and agility into the very fabric of the enterprise, and therefore, accelerates its impact on the state of operations? That's number one. And the second is, how do you drive that cultural change to embed speed and agility into the very concepts of the enterprise by itself? Traditional organizations.
I think the way we came here is that for digital, at least, we had to first build a belief system. A belief system always drives a business system and not the other way around. And the way people believe is, we did a lot of immersive programs. We had programs with NASSCOM. We used to have a program we started with a program called DIP, Digital Immersion Program. Then we went to a program called DEEP, Digital Enthusiast Exploration Program, where we took people to Bangalore. Of course, the first program was DAB, Digital Awareness Program. So be aware, then dip into it, be a little more immersed, and then become an expert or choose your field and specialize. And we used to spend a day in the NASSCOM startups 1000 building, I remember, in Diamond District. This was also coupled with a reverse mentoring program, because when we started the digital program, we said reverse mentors are important because the senior leadership really needs to understand the subject. And we realized that digital was at least correlated with youth. And at that time, I remember the social, mobile analytics and cloud movement was going in. And we said that, look, cloud is what is going to bring the agility. It was taking us 9 to 12 months to provision a server. We ran the months to minutes program where today I can actually sit in my computer and provision a server in about 7 to 8 minutes. And I'm the least IT savvy guy in the entire IT department. I can say that with pride and in writing. So that's the some of the tools. Then, I mean, what Amit was talking about. So we have looked at the enterprise at 3 levels. We said you need to be an agile enterprise. So we invested in connectivity, we invested in the cloud. We are on a multi-cloud journey. We created an entire ecosystem so that provisioning of data, orchestration of data becomes important and is collected. Then the digital enterprise we define as having data available to all. It started with our managing director continuously saying 2 things, and he said it in public forums, so I can quote him. Tata Steel collects only a fraction of the data that it can potentially collect, and Tata Steel does only a little bit with the data that it actually collects. And in spite of that, we have come where we are. Just look at the potential that we have and what we can do. Indeed. So I think that's where the data orchestration is doing, and we are on, we've got multiple tools to now get that data in place. It's a journey, but we have made progress. And then we talk about the intelligent enterprise, which is the decision making. That's actually 3 layers. You have advanced analytics where 100 plus models are running, which are deriving, which are giving intelligence. So intelligence at 4 levels: know what happened, know why it happened, know what is likely to happen, which is prediction, and then comment on what should happen, which is prescription through stochastic optimization, as we call it. So that's one kind of lens. There is the other thing, which is AI, which is how do you, so we make a distinction between advanced analytics and AI, because AI is more accurate, but also has got, we need to make sure it's ethical.
Yeah, indeed.
We need to make sure that the biases in the organization is not ingrained. We need to make sure that it is glass box and visible AI so that we know what's going on. Otherwise, you will lose all the physics and chemistry skills that you have so far learned as a 110-year-old organization. And on top of it sits the visual organization where anytime, anywhere compute and seamless visualization, and everybody in Tata Steel is supposed to be a citizen data scientist. What happened and why happened, they should not be coming to the IT department. So those are the 3 layers. You have the agile organization, which is on your infra provisioning of data. You have the digital enterprise where data is in the hands of the decision maker, near real time, single source of truth. And then you have all these tools that are supposed to aid the decision making, which we call either smart assist or augmented intelligence.
Because I'm going to take a derivative of that question really I'm going to come to you, Amit, is we've heard obviously, the immense possibilities, the potential that exists in being able to craft or fashion agile and intelligent industries and enterprises. But really, in your experience, how do you think organizations should focus on where to deliver scale and innovation for its most meaningful and perhaps long-lasting impact? How do you kind of figure that out?
Sure. I think the focus needs to start with, I think which the Sarojit also highlighted, is about the design thinking. Right? First, we need to understand what are our right challenges which we need to focus, and then design solutions based on that. And that can only happen once we have a structured approach. I think I talked about in earlier session also about design thinking, and that's the way to kind of start with. The next step always has to be the building the roadmap, because when you say building the roadmap is identifying in a phased manner how we should kind of move forward, because we have to always start with small, something which can give us an early success, something which we know that will give us a confidence to do it more. So that phased wise approach needs to kind of happen. That also gives a lot of experience to the organization in understanding what will work, how the benefits can be there. So with that, it has to move. Then the next thing, I think Sarojit also hinted about in-house, but what I will say is I think ecosystem is kind of an extremely also important.
Indeed.
And within that ecosystem, I understand many industries face a challenge of the budget. So I think the one way it can happen is leveraging the startup ecosystem. And that's where the lot of innovation and the implementation of the solution at a fast pace comes in. Right? Then the next thing is the investing in the platform, as Sarjit mentioned. Correct? There is that really brings a much scalable approach to the whole implementation process. So the platforms can help in driving the integration. Platforms can help in looking the solutions from the long-term point of view. It can help in connecting with our customers, with the workers, with our machines, correct? So it kind of brings out an integrated approach. And then the most important thing, I think, in the organization, when we are actually rolling out the initiatives on the digital, the most important thing comes up is the change management, because you will always need to kind of educate and convince people on the value of moving towards this change. I think a lot of time we just look at the ROI.
In fact, it's very interesting, Amit, with your permission, of course, that you mentioned this, because this is precisely one of the points that I wanted to bring to both of you. And Sarojit, if I may come to you. The fact that industry is going to leverage and invest in technology in perhaps much incremental measure is pretty much a given. But this also comes from the conversation that we were having just a short while back, is how do you, or rather, let me fashion it in this manner. What is your essential guidance to organizations in going about how they should be looking at the return on investments in technology by itself? What's your view on that?
That's, I think, a very good question. And, the starting point is that out of 10, the market cap of the top 10 organizations, 7 are platform operators. They're basically technology companies. What's coming out is if you're a technology company, you can enter any business, any industry, you can redefine an industry. Whereas if you are a company which is caught in a product market fix, you have a problem. However, I think taking Amit's points, it's very important to come from the point of what problem is the society or your stakeholders or the world wanting you to solve. For example, let's take the example of Ashiana. It's a platform. We built it over 2 years. We built it as a vertical market, as opposed to a horizontal market like Amazon. So in a horizontal market like Amazon, you connect demand to inventory. And you did a fantastic job of it. Okay. Vertical market, I'm actually connecting tomorrow's inspiration to tomorrow's capabilities of mine. So a guy wants to imagine a house, I'm helping him to imagine a house. The guy needs to know who are the architects and who are the masons who can provide that to it. I'm providing him peer-rated masons and architects. The guy wants to know what to buy and how much to buy. I'm giving him a material estimator. The guy wants to know whom I can buy from, where should I buy some of the other complementary stuff from, I'm bringing that to him. And finally, when you're making a home, the project management becomes the project.
Indeed.
And so I'm giving him the project management tools as well, and giving him a lot of intelligence to follow on to it. And that is why he's coming on to, now you can't just have a better platform than mine and provide him all of the, of course, I'm giving it to him with the 110 years of trust background that I also have. But it's all of that which is coming together, which is making it's a business ecosystem rather than a technology ecosystem. So I would say that organizations, really, to take Amit's point forward, I would say organizations need to move away from enterprise resource planning to ecosystem resource provision. You don't need to own everything. You don't need to access everything. You just need to be supremely collaborative. For example, Tata Steel, and Amit was talking about startups. Tata Steel is running this, is a partner in the E4 program with Shell, where we are looking at bringing startups to solve some of the longer term, bigger challenges and mentor the startups to solve them.
Very interesting. Amit, if I could come to you on the same question, really, how do you advise organizations today that are, more cautious than ever before because of the experience of the first half of the year? What's your essential guidance? How do you guide them into looking at return on investments in a beyond just the fiscal prudence, if I may be allowed to put it that way? What's your view?
So, Yeah, so on the return of investment, I think the metric should change it to the total cost of ownership. The TCO is something that we should look at, because in kind of an all our calculations, what we just look at it is how much are we investing and how much we will save in the say 1 year, right? But when we look at from the TCOs in the next 3 to 4 years, the calculations becomes very different. Second point is we are in a very integrated systems, right? If you are working on a one area of solving a problem, it could lead to the potential impact on the lot of other areas also within the organizations, because we are not working in isolation. All the processes are integrated. So that's where I think we will have to look at it once we start it and then move to the other processes, how much of those benefits will come. It is not just like if we are spending money in the improving our supply chain processes, we will just get in benefits in the supply chain, correct? The whole
Indeed.
production and
A
the
more
manufacturing,
integrated approach of sorts.
everything kind of will change. And the next thing I will advise is the, while I talked about the phase-wise approach of the implementation, the biggest element of the biggest important element comes up is the prioritization. So how do we prioritize what to start with and then what to kind of end with? So that's the kind of another thing I have. And then it is all about basically the enablement of the employees kind of and learn more about how these systems will kind of and benefit them, which is again coming back to the my
Very,
earlier point of
very,
change
very
management.
powerful point there, because I'm going to pick on that really, Sarajit, and I'm going to come to you with a byproduct of a question. Really, is how so innovation is again another very oft touted word in industry today, or pretty much across the board. How do you, Sarajit Jha, differentiate between pure innovation and perhaps doing something that's just incrementally better or incrementally more? That's first the first question. And the second question is, do you feel that in your estimate, innovation and agility can kind of go hand in hand? Because there's lots of folks here who are great innovators, who in their respective profiles will innovate, but should innovation kind of stymie our efforts to drive agility? Yeah? Why don't you give it a shot if you would?
So I have some controversial views on this, which may not,
Nothing better.
agree with anyone. So first of all, the way I look at it is I want to psychologically dissociate two things which subconsciously go hand in hand: innovation and invention. Invention is neither necessary nor sufficient for innovation. So that's my first thought on this. And agility, however, I define agility as two things. I define agility in any circumstances is, can I find out what are the factors what are the critical assumptions for a desired outcome? And then can I devise the lowest cost experiments to either validate or chuck out those assumptions? And how do I continuously do this? So it's a series of identifying the critical assumptions to success, that capability, and a series of low-cost experiments. Now you can call those as fail fast, fail forward. You can call them as a right to fail. You can call them as an obligation to dissent before decision. All of that, and all of those are very valid. Those are the hows you do it. But this is what I define at the what aspect. So I think agility definitely sits hand in hand with innovation, because I primarily look at innovation as, am I changing the way I identify value? Am I changing the way that I deliver value? Am I changing the way that I capture value? Am I changing the way that I account for value? Okay. And if any of that needs to happen, it needs to happen 10x better at least than the current way I'm doing it. Then only it's innovation. Otherwise, it's something good to do, but in my books, it's not innovation.
Very interesting. Amit, if I could bring that to you. Same question. Do you feel that innovation and agility, like Sarajit said, kind of sit together, or would you advise people to be more cautious about innovation in the current scheme of things, given that agility, competitiveness, uh, speed to market, speed to customers, and so on and so forth, perhaps tend to take precedence. How do you kind of see this?
So, yeah, I think innovation and agility goes hand in hand. I mean, in innovation, we are talking about bringing a new way of things, doing the things, right? So that's where we are kind of talking about innovation and to make our organization more agile, which means organization is better prepared to handle the all the risks or the disruptions that will come in. There is a visibility in the whole processes of the organizations, like there is a transparency. So that's what we mean by agility, and it will only happen once we are working on a road on a programs where the incremental projects are coming, and then we are better prepared to handle any kind of changes that happens, right? So the like
Brilliant.
you talked about the speed to market, right? The speed to market is an important element of agility, but then how it happens is through the technology, through the different changes in the processes, and which again happens through the innovation only.
Very well said, very powerfully put. I do have, however, a view on the clock. Just about time for a couple of questions. Sarojit, I come to you. We've got a wonderful audience sitting with us, watching us today. Uh, Three things that you would advise them to do over the course of the next 6 to 9 to 12 months that will help them build themselves not only professionally, but also drive their enterprises forward. And these could come out of your very vast experience. It could come out of the learnings of the last 7 months now. It could come from anywhere.
So I'll just turn to my 9S framework. If you want to manage innovation, you need to manage the innovator, you need to manage the innovation, and you need to manage the enterprise that is the carrier for the innovation. So 3S mantra for the managing the innovator: look at sweat. Are you putting enough effort? Look at sharp, two things that you can take to the world and say, I did this, or my team did this. And look at standard. You should not have blown up the blast furnace or brought the UPI down. Then if you're managing the innovation, you need to shape it somewhere. So you shape it. You need to make a shift, a very distinct shift, saying, okay, this is 10x on either identification or on creation or on delivery or on capturing. And you need to then share it everywhere. Once it has been shaped, shift and share. And on the enterprise, I borrow from our chairman, Mr. N. Chandrasekharan. You need to simplify. So continue to have simplification at the heart of it. You need to synergize, because none of us are more intelligent than all of us. And you need to scale, because without scale, everything is just a conversation.
Outstanding, outstanding. But that pretty much is what I have time for, but I am still going to sneak in one question each. Amit Saluja, I'll come to you. You've got 30 seconds. Given the last 6 months and the experiences, what has been that one biggest learning that's going to stick with you for a long, long time to come? It could be personal, it could be professional.
One learning, I think, is we are talking about a lot of things about the deployment or the implementation. I think one more thing we need to still consider is the adoption, right? So a lot of technologies we kind of work towards, we invest and then we deploy it. But to make sure that all these technologies are getting used, the new solutions are getting used, I think that's where also the focus has to go. So a kind of an awareness to the workers, to the employees, to the customers on what we are doing is also important. So adoption is the key.
Outstanding. And Sarojit, I come to you with the same question, sir. One learning that's going to stay with you for a long, long time. It could be personal, like I said, or it could be professional.
What your team can achieve with conviction, competence, and collaboration will just surprise you.
Outstanding. The whole concept of the human capital coming to fore here. But that pretty much, unfortunately, much as I'd like this to go on for a long, long time, that's pretty much what we have time for in this segment. Folks, I was in conversation with Sarojit Jha and Amit Saluja. Sarojit, it has been nothing short of a privilege to have had this conversation with you. This has been one of the most amazing panel discussions I've done, because I personally learned so much from you. So I'm extremely grateful, both personally as well as on behalf of the audience. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And if you're listening into this, then I hope that there's some takeaways and you can feel free to reach out to me, and I always learn. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. And Amit Saluja, thank you once again from NASSCOM for partnering us on this. Your views were very powerful, very impactful. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure, sir.
To the audience, stay tuned, folks. We'll be back shortly with the next segment. I am Arjun Vishwanathan, and we will be back. Thank you. Hello and welcome back. I'm Arjun Vishwanathan, your host for today in episode 2 of the Digital Dialogues. And we are going to be in a set of dialogues with none other than Vipin Kumar, Group CIO, ISGEC Heavy Engineering. Vipin sir, welcome. We are delighted to have you with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Arjun.
Thank you so much, sir. And for the audience, what really are we going to be speaking about? We're going to speak about the very concepts of how agility is required for organizations to quickly respond to the changes and the disruptions that we've seen over the last few months. And with this combination, really, beg your pardon, of implementation of Industry 4.0 and digital transformation, and how the convergence of technology, data, and human capital helps make enterprises achieve this objective. Vipin says now, in the last 6-8 months of the first half of the year, really, we have seen disruption like never before. And really, if we were to look at it in that manner, I think industry has been seriously challenged in its ability to prove true resilience. Now that resilience has come about to the largest degree, now that we've seen the disruption, now that we've learned from it, the key word for industry today is agility. How, in your view, as a very seasoned industry leader, IT practitioner, do you see agility being brought forth within the framework or in the broad framework of Industry 4.0?
See, Arjun, this Industry 4.0 came into being with certain facts, those industries, how do industry actually move forward? How do we extend the concept of industry into an extended enterprise, into a connected enterprise? So to address some of these concerns, framework was built around 4.0. And one of the key deliverables of that framework was a connected enterprise. And why a connected enterprise? And why an extended enterprise? Because industry wanted to see in real time what's really happening, both within the four walls of the organization, as also into the external stakeholders like your vendors, your dealers, your customers, and even your employees. So to bring in that agility, this 4.0 framework came into being. And one of the key deliverables, as I said earlier, was to bring the data, which is lying in silos all across the system, into a connected format so that organization can take decisions in real time based on change situations. So that kind of agility is actually promised in this 4.0 framework.
Very, very interesting, because my next question to you really was picking up from where you kind of left off, Vipin, is if you kind of look at the learnings that we've had over the last 6-8 months, in your estimate, how should industry figure out how to fashion meaningful innovation and therefore continue to drive scale with the underlying tenet of agility being the moot word?
See, I'll give you an example. I mean, take, for example, our manufacturing industry.
Indeed.
Not all, but most of the manufacturing industry, if you see, has gone in for some level of automation.
Indeed.
You got ERPs and possibly some automation on the shop floor. But still, if you see, most of the information which is being generated still exists in silos. And its interlinking still not there. Supply chain is a classic example of that, If you see, like one of the biggest problems which I see in the Indian manufacturing setup is still carrying large inventories. Not all, but most of the organizations still follow the traditional model of carrying inventories, and based on those inventories going for manufacturing and all. They still do not have that whole principle of having deep visibility into their supply chains. and how does the effects on the supply chain is actually driving the shop floor operations. Those kind of operations are still, I find that in most of the industries is still lacking. So, so God forbid in situation like pandemic happening, where all of a sudden things go awry and out of hand, these large inventories sucks up your entire cash flow business. And because of the cash flow business going up and sales not happening, lockdown happening, industries have gone into a very bad tailspin. Now this framework, had it been there, it would have actually integrated your shop floors operations with your supply chain, giving you deep insights into your supply chain. You would have known what is on the way, what has been dispatched, when it is coming. Based on that, what is my loading plan? Am I going for demand-led manufacturing? Am I today making what the market wants? So all that seamless connect between your entire vendor ecosystem at the one end and your dealers and your customers at the other end with the shop floor operation at the mid. Once you are able to connect this and see the operation in real time, then actually you start realizing the true benefits of Industry 4.0.
Very, very powerfully put. So, Vipin, is it true if I were to say, or rather, in fact, ask you, because I've still not fashioned for myself a fairly accurate estimate. Do you think that the digital enablement of workers is a very key value driver in pursuing sustainable operations and production, and therefore supply chain agility?
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely. See, not only workers, I mean, go a stage ahead. We are, as India opens up, and Indian companies start becoming part of global supply chains, we are slowly and steadily going to move into autonomous robots also, precision manufacturing, then first time right delivery, the first time right quality, on timelines. All these things will enable the worker on the shop floor to be highly agile, to be highly educated, to be doing his job, to be highly skilled in doing his job. So the stage 2 of manufacturing revolution, which will come in India, will come with the skill set being matching the need of the job. It is no longer anybody getting deployed and doing the routine job. You have to do it first time right, give the best of qualities. Your time to market has to be absolutely short, and you have to meet the timelines and the cost. So those industries which really invest with these kind of objectives, I'm sure will have a great future.
But then, Vipin, at the same time, do you believe or have you observed that traditional manufacturers, traditionally large organizations, while realizing that these are the imperatives for tomorrow, are perhaps stymied by traditional mindsets and culture issues that kind of prove to be a roadblock in achieving a transformative state of being, really?
See, what happens is, Arjun, if you see most of the Indian manufacturing today, we manufacture for our domestic markets. Now, with the economy opening up, with global economies interacting more and more, and with the opportunities on the global scale becoming more and more for the organizations, many of the organizations who have taken the transition, they have already implemented a host of technologies, both in terms of improving their processes, improving their skill sets, and also bringing in a cultural change. And there are many organizations today who actually thought that the best way of doing the operation is what they are doing, because this is the way they have been doing things since ages. But this pandemic, definitely, I was going through a lot of other seminars and other things. I found that COVID-19, it seems to be the biggest trigger of digitalization in most companies. So
very true.
So there is at least one good thing about COVID-19. See, but the point is, organizations are today realizing that if they are not agile, if they are not lean, if they are not connected, if they do not have deep insights into their operations, they will not be in a position to handle situations like this, God forbid, if they come again. Plus, if you look around, there's a lot of disruption which is coming in. I mean, business models are getting changed.
Indeed.
And companies which were not hitherto known are actually becoming the leader of the pack. Look at the case of Uber, Ola, PNB, Payana. I mean, all these companies, they don't own an asset, but they are disrupting the systems.
Indeed.
So disruption is one thing to which you have to be aligned, whether knowingly or unknowingly. But you don't have a choice. You have to follow the path of disruption. I mean, some of the greatest companies, if I may quote, let us say Kotak, for example, they were the first company to make the digital camera, but they thought they had a leadership position in films and all. Why they should come out with that? And somebody else did. And what happened to Kotak? So today, change is not a question of choice. It is a question you have to walk that particular path. There is no other alternative.
I kind of agree that it's more existential in nature, really. But
Yeah.
then, Vipin, I must also ask you is that, and I perhaps at the cost of repeating myself, I think people do realize that the disruption is perhaps a natural catalyst for digitization and transformation. But when this whole concept of human capital and data capital kind of come together, what in your experience and such vast experience to the audience, I have known Vipin sir now for almost 7 years, and he has never ceased to amaze me with his knowledge and his experience. What is your essential guidance to our wonderful audience today about how to go about that journey? How do you navigate that journey? Human capital, data capital, how do you kind of get them to mesh together?
See, organizations have been generating data for lot many years. And some data they have been able to leverage also. But the point is, what all data they created, did they really understood the meaning of that? Was there so much competition which was challenging their existence? Was there so much opportunity which they could have leveraged? Possibly 10, 15 years back, if you go, the answer would have been no. But today, if you stand, data is the key, because data gives you those deep insights about your business standing point in time. See, how is your shop floor operating today? If you have got IoT installed, you will come to know which are the machines which are likely to misbehave and disturb the operation on the shop floor. If you have insights into your supply chain, you know where is the material, when it is supposed to come, will it impact my shop floor operations? Should I change my shop floor plans? So if I go to my customer side, what is my dealer inventory? What is stuck where? Then what is the customer experience? What is the customer asking? Is my customer centricity in place? Is the customer happy with all my performance of the products? So all these paradigm, requires data to do the analysis. And this is making the organization hungry for data. This cannot be done based on past experience. Generally, organizations used to do that. When this happened, this should happen. When this happened, I did this. But that particular process is now getting replaced. Now this is becoming fact-based, data-based. So organizations are today not only capturing data at multiple levels, they are integrating their data and bringing their data into meaningful dashboards through big data analytics or to other advanced analytic engines to get point-in-time view as to how the organization is there. And on the worker side, you see, today the worker is not the same worker. The human is not the same human what he used to be 20 years earlier.
Indeed.
Today, he is highly mobile and he wants everything on the tips. And the nature of job set is also that the skill set matching has to happen. So the evolution of worker is also happening a lot. He wants information on his tips. He wants information anywhere. He wants to be on the move and still be productive. So this is the evolution which is happening both in human capital and data, and organizations which are aligning to leverage this, to actually sustain this, are the companies which are planning for future. And those who still believe that possibly I have been doing this job for the last 30 years and that is possibly the best way of doing it, I'm sorry, they have a problem going forward.
You spoke about the whole concept of a future enterprise, which brings me to a very contextual subject. Prime Minister's call for Atmanirbhar Bharat, the whole concept of make in India, for India, but also for global. How do you make India the next innovation and manufacturing hub? How do you see it all coming together in your experience? How do you think that journey is going to be?
See, Atmanirbhar Bharat has been there for some time under different brand names.
Indeed.
And of course, Modi ji has reinforced this idea. But if you see, India has not met with very great success on this as on date. There are fundamental reasons for that. One, I said, is our approach to the whole problem of how do I do a job well? I'm stuck in mindsets. This country is stuck in mindsets. And
very unfortunate, but true.
It's unfortunate, but true. but slowly and steadily, I think that feeling is coming down in the industry that this current system where global economies are coming closer together and India slowly and steadily is coming into the center place. The opportunity basket for India is opening up very fast. If you today see, most of the larger industrial houses have already become part of global supply chains.
Okay.
And when you talk about indigenization, the kind of ecosystem which is requires people to have that huge work culture change, the cutting edge technology. So all these things today are forcing the industry to have a relook about themselves. And, and the good part here is that the realization that Atmanirbhar Bharat is a possibility, and which I'm sure is going to happen, is now becoming an absolutely real. And
Very
maybe
true.
down the line, you will see that a whole lot of indigenization would happen. Large Indian companies will become part of global supply chains because manufacturing today is no longer bounded by boundaries. Take the example of a Boeing aircraft of A320s. I mean, they are built across the globe. Supply chains are like that.
Indeed.
So I think manufacturing is heading for a change. India is heading for a change, and that Atmanirbhar Bharat is going to be a reality very soon.
Outstanding, outstanding. But I do have a view on the clock, Vipin, and I do know you have a hard stop. So I'm going to come in with two quick questions. For this wonderful audience that's listening in to us, what are your two essential pieces of advice or guidance from the perspective of technology as a practitioner, really, that you think will hold them in good stead in the days, weeks, and months to come ahead?
See, the first thing is that you must, before you even touch technology, you must discuss what is your vision, where you see your business in the next 3, 5, 10 years time frame. That roadmap must be clear to you. Technology is not going to create that business roadmap. That is for sure. That roadmap has to come from business. Based on that vision, try to understand where is my pain point today? What is blocking me in achieving that roadmap? What is blocking me in achieving that vision? Divide your problems into smaller problems and then solve those problems incrementally. I have seen in many cases, some vendors come in and they say, we want to implement 4.0 in your company. See, you must understand, there is no magic in 4.0. 4.0 is not a technology, it is a framework. There are a host of technologies will constitute a 4.0, an automated supply chain, an IoT, 3D manufacturing, and so many other components, advanced analytics, robotics. So you have to pick and choose what your pain points are. What is your growth story? How in the next 5, 7 years you plan to take the big leap? And then you interject that particular strategy with your 4.0 step by step. That is when you will realize the true benefits of technology.
Outstanding, outstanding, Vipin. I don't think anybody could have, any of us could have really put it together. But I do come to you with one last question. Vipin Kumar, the last 6 months, the 7 months, what has been your single biggest learning, either in your personal or professional life, that's going to stay with you for a long, long time to come?
So we as CIOs, we always believe that possibly we have very analytical mind. We plan well, we talk about IT strategy, aligning with business strategy and all that stuff we talk. But what I learned was there is something called God.
Indeed.
Who can beat the best of plans. And my second learning of all this is that organizations should never wait for any good time or a disaster or some other event to plan the journey of transformation. Transformation is an ongoing journey, must be done on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, on a yearly basis. Those companies, excuse me, which plan their transformation well and walk on the road of transformation as a process, as a policy, as a mission, will always succeed. Those companies which walk on this journey by force due to circumstances or something else.
Indeed. Brilliant words, words of true wisdom. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the man himself, Vipin Kumar, Group CIO for ISGEC Heavy Engineering, in conversation with me, your host. Vipin, sir, it has been delightful having you here and share your experience and wisdom. Thank you so very much. We are very
Thank you so much,
grateful that you
Arjun.
could make out time to join us. For the audience, that was it in this segment. Stay tuned. We'll be back with the next segment in a short while.
Thank you, Arjun.
Thank you, sir. Hello and welcome back. We now continue our conversations around agility in an Industry 4.0 perspective. And amidst this, the need for greater agility in operations, in speed to market, and the overhauling of complete supply chain systems at heightened awareness. While organizations train their focus on creating agility, there's also a need perhaps to revamp and reimagine manufacturing and operation models that embrace the rising complexities and maturity curves of technology. This constant need for responding to change in the market or perhaps even in consumer behavior will require a recrafting of traditional mindsets, traditional technologies that drive an enterprise-wide adoption around the concepts of direction, velocity, and superior business value. To discuss all of this and more, I have two very, very eminent gentlemen from the industry. Please join me in welcoming Sudipto Shekhar Ghosh, Director, Device Marketing, Microsoft India. Sudipto, delighted that you could join us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Arjun. It's a pleasure to be here.
Indeed. And Venkat Varadarajan, Head Cloud and Web Tech Business, Intel India. Venkat, welcome. Delighted that you could join us today.
Thank you, Arjun. Thanks for having me here.
Gentlemen, now you've heard the conversations over the last two segments that we've had where we've been in conversation and in dialogue with industry veterans from the manufacturing segment. Now, my question really to you is, and with your permission, Sudipto, if I could come to you. How, in your view, are you at Microsoft and along with the triad of Microsoft, Intel, Dell, and VMware, kind of bringing in a convergence of technology to help organizations, especially manufacturing organizations, in capturing value at scale? What's your view on that?
Thanks. I think you're referring to somewhere the Industrial Revolution 4.0 that we all actually entering into or entered into. But before I get into the definition and what we do, I think it's important to know what it is not as an organization, right, or as an industry. The visual that we always get about Industrial Revolution is about smart machines, industrial robots. No, it is not that. It is actually truly empowering people to achieve more. In fact, if you see the last 5-6 months what we have seen, and I'll just quote my CEO Satya Nadella there, where he says, we have witnessed the digital transformation of the next 2 years in just 2 months.
Indeed, indeed.
Right. So which is something we are all going through, and this is something where it's important for us to be more smarter and rethink our entire business models. So to be specific on the type of outcomes that we work on and that's where all this the tech industry is working, is how do you diagnose your own problems? How do you alert yourselves instead of getting into the problem and then finding out a solution, right? How do we leverage all this data that is there, right, and do things that are more predictive, right? And finally, how do we be interconnected? For example, the entire supply chain, the truck talking to the transporter talking to the end mile. So all of these coming together, I think that's where the role of technology is going to be. And companies like Dell, like Intel and Microsoft are literally doing the heavy lifting of making that happen for industries in the globe.
You made an interesting point, Sudipto, because I'm going to take that to Venkat. Venkat, the whole concepts today are increasingly about how innovative organizations can be. Because if you look at the learnings really of the last 6 months, if they've taught us something, it is that resilience and innovation are two of the key pillars or the tenets of what thriving in a hyper-digital economy is going to be. Therefore, from your vantage point at Intel, how are you powering innovation for your customers, for them to be able to thrive better, compete better, innovate better? What's your view?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Arjun, you briefly touched upon the word agility, and then my co-panelist from Microsoft, Sudipto, he spoke about the data, right? I think if one were to combine these two parameters, right, the the manufacturing companies need to constantly adapt to changing conditions. Okay, I'll give you an example, right? You drive a car, you are on a cruise, and then you set the speed as 60 kilometers per hour. Okay, no matter what, the car goes at that speed. That is one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is, hey, you set the speed of 60 kilometers. Depending on the road condition, you adapt the speed, right? You change the speed, you move within a band so that you are in control, but you maintain the highest speed that is possible, right? So how is to make this possible, right? You need the data from various input sources, right? So if you take a typical manufacturing plant, the data comes in from various sources, and you have to be in a position to consolidate these data, do some analytics, and constantly change your output, your supply chain parameters, etc., to get that value that you were talking about. That is where Intel's innovations come into play. How do you handle the data?
Indeed, indeed. Because it brings me to an important question is, therefore, from the perspective of agility, and Sudipto, you spoke about data. Venkat, you spoke about the whole concept of, you know, how fashioning new innovation is really the key way going ahead. Now, from a hybrid multi-cloud kind of a perspective, which really is one of the perhaps the pillars of transformative success. So, Sudipto, what is your essential guidance to industry in helping them fashion the right approach to the implementation of 4.0 in its truest sense?
Again, I'll refer to Satya, favorite for all of us, but this is important. See, the answer would have been different maybe a year back and maybe different a year later. But at this moment, how we see the transition. So what we say is we've been through that immediate response state about 3, 4, 5 months, wherever in the world we were. Now we are in that recovery stage. And the important part comes after this, which is the reimagine phase. So it's very important that we know what are the things we take from this current pre-pandemic situation, what are the things that we leave behind, and what are the things we accelerate on. That's going to play a very important role. Just to give you an anecdote on this, which is, I'll take a reference, which is the tech sector supposedly was about 5% of the global GDP globally. It's forecasted to be at 10% of the global GDP by 2030. What this means is, it's one, the industry is growing, the other, the reliance of the entire global economy or anything else on technology per se. So specifically getting into actual brass tacks, I think this is the time where you have to completely rethink the way you are doing businesses, be it every part of your business. This is just not about a specific manufacturing plant or a supply chain situation or having a digital unit. It is everything, and everything that you have becomes a multi-sense, a multi-device, and a remote anywhere capability. I think that's what we work on. And as Microsoft, that's what is the area where we are focusing, which is enabling the infrastructure, which will be as simple as endpoint devices, to tools, to collaboration tools, communication tools, and all, and making them available for the industry to take it forward.
Very, very interesting, because I'm going to take the same question to you, Venkat, is what is your guidance from Intel's point of view, and Intel being a very vital cog in the machine, where solutions are vectored around what you bring to the table in terms of the processing, in terms of the core engine of a solution. What is your essential guidance to organizations and enterprises today that you are advising, working with, on how to fashion their approaches in a post-disrupted world where resilience, something that's certainly going to matter, but agility is equally required?
Correct, correct, correct. So our advice to our customers have been, hey, have the cloud first approach, right? So when we talk about cloud first, cloud as an operating model, okay, you can have your own cloud in your plant, and you can have another larger setup in a public cloud, right? So when you have a cloud first approach, both your points, which is agility and resilience, can be addressed. I'll explain how, right? So for you to be agile, you have to try fast, fail fast, and try something new, okay? So for that to happen, cloud is an amazing tool where you can try out something really fast and then move ahead, right? And then coming to resilience, right? So you know what happened during the pandemic, right? When everything got shut down, people continue to operate. So how was that made possible? Purely because of cloud, whether it is Azure, Microsoft Azure, or any other cloud, right? So people were able to continue to learn from home, have entertainment from home, and then work from home after all, right? The same is applicable for a manufacturing plant. Okay, you can have fewer number of resources on the ground, still continue to operate the plant, whether it is a shop floor or it's a supply chain, using this combination of sensors, camera, and then the local data collection, a local small cloud, and then there is a public cloud. Using this combination of the complete edge to cloud, you can achieve both resilience and agility to try out new things.
Very, very interesting. Which is why it brings me to an equally important point, one that is in much discussion in both industrial as well as economic circles, the whole concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat. To the point of saying, at least from a manufacturing point of view, if I were to look at it, is make in India, for India, and for global. Now, when you come and look at this clarion call, really, from the highest levels of government, what is your view and how folks such as yourselves at Microsoft and Intel can partner Indian industry to actually achieving that goal in a sustainable fashion and in a time-bound fashion? Because it really can't be a multi-year without visibility kind of a journey. Sudipta, you want to take a stab at that?
Sure. And I'll refer to what Venkat really put it very nicely on how the cloud first approach is. In fact, many organizations really need to look at a cloud only approach, to be honest. So, including us, but I don't need a physical office anymore, literally. So that's how it is. But more realistically, I think with the Honorable Prime Minister, when he mentioned about Atmanirbhar Bharat, what he was trying to do, he didn't want to say that it's just about India. It's about India's contribution to the world. How do we become a more stable economy? How do we become a resilient economy? And actually, if you see, his underlying statement is about world peace also, so that, you know, so these disbalances don't exist. So the area where we are seeing people talk about is apps and all. I'll not touch about that area because that's one aspect. I'll give a more broader interesting fact, which is the adoption of data and AI. It used to be niche maybe a year ago. It was a differentiator when we entered the pandemic. Now it is extension. It is about existence. It is not about any more a differentiator. If I have to survive in this industry, I have to leverage, approach, and take the adoption of data and AI. The next area where I want to do is, and Microsoft is playing a very important role, that how do you build the skill sets of the current and the next generation? While we have a global program on skilling initiatives, which is marrying with the India Digital Saksharta Mission and all, which is what a technology company like ours, and I'm talking on behalf of the industry here, is going to play an important role. Because fundamentally, I believe Atmanirbhar Bharat is not about just achieving what this country does with its current set of resources, but building that ability so that we are right at the top. And thankfully, we've got wonderful leaders in this industry. In fact, whenever I look at the leader, it's full of Indians. So it's really, it makes you proud. So I'll leave it at that.
Venkat, and beautifully put, Sudeep. So thank you so much for that. It gave it a very refreshing, a new facet for sure. Venkat, what's your view? Atmanirbhar Bharat, and the ability, like Sudeep rightly said, not to look at what we can do from today's perspective, to, well, continue to do that, but to also focus on reaching a point where, with industry, we also grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you look at Atmanirbhar Bharat, the call for the industry is to become part of the global supply chain, make not only for India, but make in India for the world, right? And if you take a step back and then ask, hey, how do we do that, right? If you want to become really part of the global supply chain and then export to the world, you have to become more efficient and more competitive, right? So the only way to achieve more efficiency and competitiveness is to have the digital backbone, the technology backbone, whether it is automation at the shop floor level or using data effectively to build efficient supply chain and sourcing mechanisms, right? From an Intel perspective, we are completely aligned with the government policies. The way we contribute, like Microsoft does, is we train the resources on the ground, whether it is developers or technology people who are like graduating from the college. We invest a lot of our money in creating the human potential for our future growth. That's the way we look at the Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Very, very, very nicely put. Because, gentlemen, I came to Atmanirbhar Bharat because, well, it is very, very important. But I do have a view on the clock, and we have a next segment coming up. But I do have time for one very interesting question that I think I've lately been asking a lot of my panelists to learn from them, learn from industry leaders such as yourselves, uh, on fashioning oneself and on imbibing lessons to the point where professional growth, of course, is certainly there, but personal growth also happens. And I know I speak for this wonderful audience that's joining us today. Venkat, I'm going to come to you. In the last 6 months or the first half of the year, that's really taught us, or maybe it's gone beyond a little of the first half. We are in September. So it is interesting. But the first, yeah, 6, 7 months of the year, what has been that one biggest learning that's going to stick with you for a long, long time to come? It could be personal, it could be professional. What has helped Venkat Varadarajan become a better professional, become perhaps a better person? You could choose to answer with
Yeah,
passion, sir.
sure, absolutely. I'll address both the points. I think at the personal level, it's really important to have the family support. It's really important to have your friends and family with you. For anybody to go through a crisis like this, to have a sane mind and continue to
Is
focus
very
on work,
challenging indeed.
that's the backbone for all of us. I'll start with that point. Um, at the professional front, we all draw plans, right? When the year starts, we have a plan for year 2020, and then we have a 2-year
I
plan.
went out of the window
When
quite, didn't
when
it?
the crisis hits, all the plans are out the window, and then you need to have the humility to accept what is being thrown at you, and then kind of respond with resilience. We spoke about the resilience of the industry, of the plants, etc. At the personal level, people have to be resilient. That's the
Yes,
starting point, right?
so
You
true.
have to learn, adapt, and change the way you work, and continue to move on with optimism.
Indeed.
Optimism that this thing will get over one day, and we are all back to the old ways and back to hitting the beaches, hitting the vacation that you always looking for in the past 9 months. So with that optimism, we take one day at a time and then move ahead.
Outstanding. Of course, when you mentioned coming back to the old ways, I hope you did make a distinction between traditional mindsets of looking at technology and new mindsets that will continue to
Yeah.
come in because of the learnings that we've had. But I'm sure you do. Sudipto Sekhar Ghosh, I come to you with the same question. Maybe one or two learnings that's going to stay with you for a long, long time to come. And therefore, the difference between Sudipto Sekhar Ghosh, January of 2020, Sudipto Ghosh, September of 2020.
See, typically, start of every decade always comes with a lot of, optimism and hope. Typically, this year wasn't anywhere near that. The interesting part, it was a global issue, so a global response and all. Uh, I have literally picked up two important things. One is empathy, which is how empathetic you can be it as a person, the way Venkat referred to, or be it even as a professional. It is there are multiple facets to being empathic. Fundamentally, what you're doing is, are you addressing a problem that does not have a solution today for somebody, right? So that's one area, which includes taking the call right now and the dog next door barking heavily. So that's also, so I'm being empathetic towards him. Maybe someday even he will be. But I think it's a new world, a new way of working. We are all learning day by day. I'm really looking forward to the next few days, months, and weeks.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Thank you so very much, gentlemen. Folks in the audience, I was in conversation with Sudipto Sekhar Ghosh from Microsoft and Venkat Varadarajan from Intel India. Gentlemen, Sudipto, Venkat, thank you. It has been nothing short of a privilege to have been in
Thank you.
dialogue with you. And I'm sure the audience has taken your points and will fashion newer futures for both themselves as well as their organizations in the the days, the weeks, the months, and the years to come. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arjun.
Thank you.
To the audience, stay tuned. We'll be back very shortly with the next segment.
Hi everyone, I'm sure you all have enjoyed the digital dialogues thus far, focusing on diverse business and technology aspects of Industry 4.0. Well, now comes the concluding but very exciting part of this episode, a session titled In Focus. I'm extremely delighted, and indeed it's my pleasure to introduce the host and anchor of In Focus, Mr. Sri Krishna Venkataraman, Partner Marketing Manager, Dell Technologies India. Over to you, Sri Krishna, for In Focus.
Good morning, friends. Welcome back to In Focus with Kapil Dev. Last week, we had started a conversation with the great Kapil Dev on his cricketing journey. I'm sure it was very insightful to you as well. This week, we continue our discussions from where we left off on what has been a remarkable journey. I should say, sir, talking to you actually, lifts my morale now, right? You have that positive energy feeding out of you.
That you must, Shri, learn every day while eating. Be positive. I'm going to enjoy my meal. It's going to help me. If you're driving, enjoy your drive. Whatever you are doing, if you are enjoying, that's give you the strength eventually. My strength, what I believe is, if I see 10 years senior to me, any person, and I learn from them. If he talks something which I don't like, I say, when I reach his age, I hope I don't do these type of mistake. And if I see the old man is enjoying, doing something wonderful, I said, I wish when I reach his age, I should do like this. So it's a learning process throughout your life. When I played for India, same thing happened. I said, when I grow, I like to be like him. I learned this captaincy from this person. I won't do something this negative. So it's up to you. It's not on anybody else.
Get it, sir. Moving on from the last question, you've been continuously associated with sports, be it cricket and now it's golf. Now it's a three-part question, sir. First, why golf? And how did the transition happen?
Okay, if I play a tennis, you would have said, why tennis? Is that right?
Yes.
I mean, to me, what I felt, it was eye-hand coordination. Even though I played a team game, when I start playing golf, I try to realize my own talent and ability. I said, God, here I'm not depending on anybody. In cricket, you bowl a very good ball, edge, somebody can drop a catch. So I always say I'm a very individual who like to take a pride about my performance, but my performance depend on my team. So I'm not regretting about that, but I still take pride about my team. So I become a part of my team rather than individual. And that was my story.
So, Kapil, we had discussed earlier also that during your playing days, coaching staff were minimal when you compare it with today's scenario. And you had a lot of home and away tours, and especially on away tours, you had to work on your fitness, discipline, game improvements, even your personal life, how you behave with people outside, because culturally it is very different each of the countries. So, how important was self-reliance on this, Kapil?
I think today also that's important. It was important 100 years back and when we played then also. Your coach can teach you up to one level. You know, all you studied in universities, college, till then. After that, it's your responsibility. My coach could not teach me certain things, but my coach become my team. When your colleague is in the same level, come out and say something, he's going through that. Coach, basic idea was he give us the basic coaching and then we start learning, and that's what it happened to me. I love my coach because I got a basic very good, and after that, like your colleague comes out and say, Kapil, your bat is not coming right, your arm is dropping. So your team become your coach. You don't need anybody. You need self-realization within yourself and from the team, because team is the highest level of coaches there, because they can pinpoint your mistake and your good point.
Yeah, that Kapil sir. You spoke about the team. Now, unlike other nations, we are blessed to have such a diverse cultural background here in India, right? I mean, different people come from different cultural background. I mean, we don't even talk the same language as others do within the country. And you had a team in a fairly young age. You became a captain, and you were leading a team which had people from different backgrounds. So how easy or how difficult was it to manage a team that comes from different cultures?
It wasn't difficult, I honestly tell you, but it was more difficult when you become manager. When you are a team, a part of a team, then only one thing if you had in your head, how to win the match. You don't have too many things. So if you can pick up as a captain, your kind of people who are ready to give life on the field, I think that's what I always look for. I don't look for talent. I look for commitment. Sometimes talented person cannot perform as much as the committed person perform. It may be in your company, maybe in the world. The person who's committed, he will give more than 200%, and that's what you require sometime.
Get it, sir. How easy was it to communicate with different team members? I mean, you can't be talking in the same wavelength to, if I may get in some names, sir, but to an experienced person like, say, Sunny Gavaskar, who was one of the best opening batsmen India has ever produced. He was drastically different to a person like a Krishnamachari Shrikant, right? Even from a playing perspective, one technically very sound and one very aggressive. So how easy is it to manage? How easy is it to communicate, and what do you exactly communicate to them?
A person like Sunil Gavaskar, you don't have to communicate too much, because if he had stayed in my chair, which I'm holding today as a captain, he knows what to do. It's a very few things you can go and tell him. Rather, other way around, you can learn from him. And if you learn from the senior person, giving him the respect and trying to make sure you are the leader at that stage. When I have to say something to Sunil Gavaskar which is not very happy, I'll go alone and go quietly and say that. And when I have to praise Sunil Gavaskar, then I go in public. So there is a difference. But Shrikant being a younger, I can learn from him, but at that stage, you have to give a freedom to a person like that, because certain people are very natural. And Shrikant is very, very natural cricketer. So you don't say much to him at that on the field. Go enjoy yourself. But that's what you have to look for. Person make their own personality over the period of time. So catch the personality and go with that. Order giving is easy, but can you take the same order if you are on opposite side? Your tone will be changed totally.
Absolutely golden words, Kapil. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I must say that truly was a fantastic participation. We are immensely happy that we could bring this episode of the Digital Dialogue Season 2, Industry 4.0. I would kindly request everyone to please fill up the feedback form. Your feedback is extremely important to us, as this definitely helps us enrich future events that we will continue to bring to you. Stay tuned, and we will be back on September 16th with episode 3 of the Digital Dialogues. Till then, please do take care, stay safe, and thank you so much.